Good morning to everybody. It's our first time here.
They've become a proper club under Pep Guardiola.
Pep Guardiola is arguably the best coach in world football.
Football is not just about the result, it's about how you get to the result.
Yeah, fasten seatbelt for the other side of the car.
Pep Guardiola came to Manchester City at the beginning of the 2016-2017 season, having won just about everything there is to win in club football with Barcelona already, as well as 3 successive Bundesliga titles with Bayern Munich. Understandably, expectations were pretty high for the new man, given that he'd already won 22 trophies in his reasonably short time as a manager.
I remember where I was coming home from a school trip at some point. I was absolutely buzzing because obviously it's Guardiola, you see that Barcelona side doing so well, dominating, playing that football that everyone loves and everyone adores, and it was, you know, the best team ever. So you think you're sort of guaranteed trophies as soon as Guardiola comes, really.
He said he came here to learn and to test himself and test his ideas. But to understand those ideas, you've got to go back to where it all started for Pep, which was, of course, Barcelona.
We are sons of our culture, of our parents, of the people that have educated us, of the people we feel close to, and he certainly is a mixture of all that. So the fact that he was brought up as a player here means that from the beginning he was told that the way to play and to get the best out of him and to enjoy is to keep the ball, play with the ball and dominate games.
It helps with Pep that you can actually trace his philosophy. He's not like a manager where you think, well, this guy must just be a genius. There's an actual lineage there. So, I mean, if you follow the route through, you've got to go Rinus Michels, Johan Cruyff, Pep.
What he learned from Johan Cruyff, that football is really, it's not just a business. It's something to enjoy, it's something to entertain. It's something that has to go back to the beginnings. Why do we play football? We play football because we enjoy passing the ball and touching it. Well, okay, we should do teams, Johan Cruyff feels, that does that.
Tiki-taka, if you want to call it that, which I know Pep's not a fan of the term, is just a modern equivalent of total football that the Ajax and Dutch teams in '74 under Michels and Cruyff played. And all tiki-taka does is give a much more modern focus on what they were doing anyways.
Tiki-taka, characterised by short passes and intense pressure to win back possession. Players form triangles on the pitch and play within them until the opposition have moved out of position or left gaps to exploit. The ball is then quickly moved out of the triangle and a new triangle is formed in a different area of the pitch where the person on the ball has 2 passing options available to them, with 1 opposition player in the middle. As soon as another opposition player breaks into the triangle, the ball is moved out again and the gap that player has left is exploited.
And Pep does this a lot in training. If you change the pitch into grids, and in every grid where the ball is, if you're 2 against 1, you should always retain the ball. You should always have 2 or 3 outlets to go to. We pass the ball to move the opposition. We don't pass the ball to move the ball.
But perhaps the finest example of this philosophy, this style of play, this tiki-taka football, came in 2011 at the Champions League final against Manchester United at Wembley Stadium.
That was the second one against Manchester United, and all you need to know is that Sir Alex Ferguson went into the changing room at half-time, hardly said anything. While in the first one, he always felt that Manchester United deserved more. On this one, it was like, nothing you can do.
And the first goal is a great example of this. So if you look at the first goal, there's a few little interchanges of passes, short 5, 6, 7 yard passes. And the Man United slowly start drifting to their right, Barcelona's left. And Messi's involved, Xavi's involved, Iniesta's involved. David Villa makes a run, and the defence follow him because that's where the ball's been. Pedro drifts to the other side, and all of a sudden Xavi springs that pass. So Xavi's been playing these 4, 5, 6 yard passes back and forth, and all of a sudden the space is there and you go. Where you almost suck defences into thinking, well, if they're passing the ball 5, 6 yards, 35 yards from our goal, that's fine. But what they're doing by that is each one of those passes matters. Because with each pass that moves, the defence inch across, and then it's bang, it's the quick pass that goes, and that's what undoes defences. It's not the 5 yard passes. it's the killer one at the end, but that's only possible by moving the defence out of position. And in that game, that was absolutely perfectly well executed.
Pep Guardiola left Barcelona at the end of the 2011-2012 season and decided to take a break from football, immersing himself in a world outside of the sport by living in New York for a year, like a true hipster. But when the time came for him to get back into the game, he decided to take on a new challenge, and that challenge was at Bayern Munich.
He said goodbye to Barcelona in May in a famous press conference, and he was already talking to Bayern Munich in August. So quite clearly, it impressed him the fact that Bayern Munich wanted him, the history of it, the fact that such big names are directors there. Rummenigge was there, Beckenbauer, and the possibility of taking his idea away from Barcelona and see if it works somewhere else.
It may have taken him a little while to settle down at the club, but eventually he ended up winning 3 consecutive Bundesliga titles. In January 2016, Bayern announced that Pep would be leaving at the end of the season. While at Man City, Manuel Pellegrini made his own announcement.
I was at the press conference when Manuel Pellegrini announced that he was stepping down at the end of the season, and then shortly after that we got the message from City that it was going to be Pep Guardiola who took over from him.
Just also excited because we knew what was coming. We were excited to think what he would do to the Premier League and whether he would be able to change it or whether he could do it in England. That was the big thing that everyone was asking, not just City fans. So it was that excitement and anticipation of something great about to come, really.
From the minute he arrived, Pep set about instilling his philosophy and his ideas on how the game should be played. He also went about finding out which of his players could adapt to that style of play, and if they couldn't, they were out.
If I'm being honest, I loved Joe Hart. I thought he did tremendously well at City. But towards the end of his time at City, I was beginning to think that he needed replacing. He was showing certain weaknesses as a goalkeeper, particularly on his left-hand side, I thought. However, I don't think it was that reason that what happened. I think there was a little bit of politics, there was a little bit of personality, and there was also Pep's need for a goalkeeper who was a sweeper keeper who could play with his feet.
At the time, we were pretty annoyed with it because we were thinking, well, what more does he need to do? Like, he's been here 10 years and just has turned into something that really epitomises the club and the fan base. He was always the man who would come out after getting knocked out of the Champions League and say the things that the fans were saying, you know, we simply weren't good enough tonight, all that type of stuff. Wore his heart on his sleeve.
I mean, all good managers are ruthless, you know. They get to the point where they realise this isn't working and the cut happens, you know, no matter how much money you've spent, no matter what you've invested in it, perhaps emotionally as well as financially.
But it wasn't just with Joe Hart that Guardiola showed his ruthless side.
The way he handled Yaya Toure when his manager, Mr. Selleck, was causing all sorts of problems was a perfect example of Pep sticking to his principles.
So no Yaya, he won't play at all?
He's not in the team. But the day after his manager spoke, in that moment Yaya is out. Except Mr. Dimitri Seluk came back in the press conference, or his friends in the media, because he has not courage to call me, go to the media and say, apologize to Manchester City, the first one, the second one, his teammates, and after the trainer. When that happened, Yaya will be part of the group and he will have the same chance to play all the games. I cannot imagine my period when I was a football player, my manager, go to the media, speak against Johan Cruyff. Maybe it's the new era, you know, the new period changing, but I'm old guy. I'm old generations. In all generations, manager has to make his job, players his job, and trainer his job.
Doing that to Yaya really proved that, yeah, being the right type of person does matter, and Yaya needed to come out and say sorry. Eventually he did, but it took him way too long really to come out and say that.
Guardiola led Man City to 6 Premier League wins in his first 6 Premier League games, but eventually they lost 2-0 to Spurs. They'd only lose 5 more Premier League games for the rest of the season, yet still a forlorn-looking Guardiola saying, "I'm so happy," became an ever-present theme in his press conferences for the rest of the season.
I didn't think it would happen straight away with Guardiola, because I thought you could see what he was trying to do. He was trying to play from the back and play high-risk possession, passing football, and you could see that some of the players were struggling with it.
You know, when he's coming in, he's going to play his style of football. He's not going to try and adapt himself to the Premier League. He's always going to play his way, and that was proved in the first year because, you know, as we know, it wasn't successful. We didn't win a single trophy last year.
If it had been a different type of manager that had come in, playing different type of football, and without the reputation that Pep Guardiola had, perhaps there would have been a little less patience.
As the season went on, the threads started to come together, and you could see it starting to evolve. You see them getting better. You could see the players starting to grasp what it was all about, and that all led on into the summer when he finally got a proper big pre-season with the players, and that was the point at which it all really did come together.
At the end of Pep's first season in England, Manchester City finished third in the league, 8 points behind second place Spurs. But one success he did have was his development of young players.
He needs to play young players because he needs to mold a team to his idea. So it's easier with young players on one hand. He needs young players because he actually needs that energy put into the team.
City fans really want to see him promote the young players more. You know, they want to see more of Phil Foden, more of Brahim Diaz. But I think he's getting it right. You know, Foden's only 17. Normally, unless you are Messi, you're not going to be breaking into the first team until you're 19, 20. And I think he's handling Foden just right. He's just giving him a taste of it. He's making sure he feels included.
And learning from the best players around, really, because it's important. And you can only credit Pep for bringing them in, but now it's all about making sure they're now going to be good enough. They're only still young, they're 18 or so it's no major rush to get them in.
This season also saw the development of certain key players and one or two who had otherwise looked to be on their way out.
Oh, he's moulding everything that's there, the ones that can be moulded. So I think Kevin De Bruyne is a better player with him, Sané is a better player with him, Sterling is a better player with him.
The transformation he's wrought with Sterling is perhaps the most spectacular of them all, because at the end of Pellegrini's reign, Sterling was marginalised. We thought he was going to be leaving, he didn't seem to be getting in the team. He felt disgruntled because Pellegrini wanted him to play two-touch football, or one-touch, two-touch football, because that fitted with his philosophy. But the first thing that Guardiola said to Sterling was, forget all that, what I want you to do is get the ball, go at players and try and beat them. If you do that, I don't care how many times you lose the ball, if you beat them once, I'll be happy with you.
The little things that Guardiola's been doing with him. Pep told him to take the ball in with the inside of his foot with a first touch, where he'd been taking it in with the outside of his foot originally.
They call it the half touch in Spain, something that Pep himself was quite good at. Busquets is a master at it. Busquets was able to constantly be on the half turn with the half touch and move it on.
He's scored 23 goals, he's assisted another 11, I think it is. He's caused teams immense problems. Leroy Sané on the other side causes problems for different reasons, but Sterling is so unpredictable, and Guardiola's sort of bought into that unpredictability and used it as a weapon, and he's used it fantastically well.
At Bayern Munich, Philipp Lahm was very famously converted from being a fullback to almost a utility player by Pep, because he was an intelligent player who wanted to learn. And the example of that at City at the moment is Fernandinho. And it feels to me as if Fernandinho is one of those types of players that Pep has identified very early on and thought, this is a guy who can really understand what I'm trying to do and help other players. And I think that's the type of player Pep loves, because you see what he does with his fullbacks. Sometimes he tucks them in and asks them not to play as fullbacks. Sterling and Sané can switch sides, can come in and play there in the middle from time to time. You see Sterling playing as a false nine. You've even seen in recent weeks Sané almost coming in and playing as a false nine. And he's asked Aguero to go out and play in other positions, and he's asked Gabriel Jesus to do that as well.
But you can only do that with players that accept that they have to change, that they have the qualities that he needs you to have, and that that they're willing to learn.
One expectation had by fans of the Premier League worldwide was that of the battle between Pep Guardiola and his old arch nemesis, Jose Mourinho.
I think when they both knew they were coming, I think both of them were keen to avoid the kind of rivalry they had in Spain. I think they called the Spanish media used to call it the disease.
Jose came to Spain very, very clear that he was going to stop Barca's domination. He felt LaLiga needed him, and he felt that, he would try and win the war off the pitch if he couldn't do it on. And that famous quote where Pep says, in this room, Mourinho is El Puto Jefe. He's the boss in this room. I don't do my talking in the press. I don't do that. I do it on the pitch.
And Guardiola never looked for a rivalry. He never looked for a fight. If he hasn't found that fight in the Premier League, it's because Jose Mourinho doesn't feel that Manchester United are at a level to compete with Manchester City.
The first one of this season was massive. That was a proper Manchester derby title deciding one for me, actually. As soon as we won that game, got 11 points clear, I'm thinking, you know, we're going to win the league here, because we were so convincing against them. He set up and he just defended, and it was almost like they knew they were inferior and they weren't good enough.
So while everyone thought that Pep Guardiola was going to have his big rivalry with Jose Mourinho and Manchester United, in fact it turned out to be Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool instead.
Oh, that's a fascinating cultural, tactical fight. That is the fight of this part of the century. Klopp, chaos, and he wants that chaos, pace, and not so much tactics but directness, with Pep Guardiola, who wants to control absolutely everything that happens on a pitch. Chaos versus control is just fascinating.
We're looking around going, who's the nearest to us? And it is Liverpool. Our biggest game, of course, this season was in the Champions League, where we were convincingly beaten at the hands of Klopp, who really seems to have got the stranglehold over Guardiola in recent times. Just seems to know how to play against him.
What we're getting is that when one dominates the other, when one goes over the other, destroys the other, not just beats them, destroys them. You see in the games, the 5-0. Even the 4-3 was a 4-1 originally, I think, so there was certainly a big difference that was masked at the end in the last few minutes.
Anfield is still the only stadium that City have not won at since the takeover 10 years ago. There's just something about going there, they've got a mental block with it. What Liverpool have got are three quick, tricky front players, and City are not set up very well to cope with that. And that is one thing that Guardiola's got to learn. He's got to find a way of dealing with that next season. He didn't deal with it this season. It's probably his only failing, and of course it saw City knocked out the Champions League.
At the start of the 2017-2018 season, Manchester City went on a run of 3 Premier League games in a row where they scored at least 5 goals a game and kept a clean sheet. This was soon followed by a 7-2 hammering of Stoke City.
That was crazy. At that point, when we were beating Stoke 7-2, we beat Liverpool 5-0, albeit they had a man sent off, we still dominated them. We battered Tottenham as well. They tried to play against us and come out, play us at our own game. It didn't work.
I must admit, by halfway through the season, for the first time in my life, and I've been watching City home and away for 40 years, I was starting to expect victories.
You always know how you're going to play, which is great. You know you're going to set up the exact same way, the same formation. You're going to pass the ball, you're going to go forward quickly, attack to the wings, low hard crosses into the striker, that type of thing. So you always know what you're going to expect, no matter who you're playing, whether it's Man United or West Brom. This brand of football is exciting to watch. You feel yourself sometimes just standing there in awe of it, thinking, how good are we? And we realise as City fans that this is probably the best football we're ever going to see.
The fact that they finished the season so strongly as well, once the title had been won, everyone thought they'd take the foot off the gas and just, toss it away. But they kept the foot full down. They went to West Ham and scored 4. They put 5 past Swansea. And then they pop up with a late last-minute winner just to cap off the season absolutely perfectly. They score in the 94th minute at Southampton. So a season is never going to be perfection, but I think this season has been as close as you'll ever get in the Premier League.
And what about the future for Pep Guardiola and this Manchester City side?
I think next season they'll be looking to put up a really good defence of the Premier League title, but the Champions League has to be more than anything.
I would love to see City win the Champions League, of course I would, but winning the Premier League is about 38 games, it's about consistency, and it's a proper, true measure of who the best is.
This is not Pep Guardiola adapting to the Premier League. This is his team adapting to Pep Guardiola. That's what it's all been about. I also feel that a lot of people want to hear him saying that the Premier League is special. Okay, he says it, Premier League is special. But what he's done is actually managed to get the squad to play to his image and to his philosophy.
Now, for some people, mostly lunatics, this season became a bit of a disappointment for Man City when they didn't win the Champions League and they weren't the new Invincibles. But let's not forget, this is a team that's broken record after record after record after record. They're all young and they're only getting better. So next year, what is it? More records broken for Pep Guardiola? Is it the Premier League? Is it the FA Cup? Or maybe, just maybe, this time it's the Champions League.
That's why I'm here. To prove myself if I am able to do that.